Hi, I'm Tony Bowen, and welcome to part 4 of my Grinnell, Iowa Depot build. Well, this part is going to focus on the turret of the Grinnell, Iowa Depot, and I'll tell you, it definitely had some challenges. Probably one of the biggest challenges I had was finding a material that would be at pretty close to the right diameter for the Grinnell, Iowa Depot turret, because scale wise, it was about 13 feet across and would be about 22 scale feet high. And unfortunately, Plastistrucks that I went to first, any tubing they had was a little too small. I went through the hardware store and looked at PVC piping, and the problem I saw there was it was very thick. And so finally, I went to the electrical area and happened to find this black material here and thought, this might be exactly what I need. So, of course, I had to buy a 4 foot piece of it for something that I only needed about 2.5 inches from. But that's okay. It never hurts to have a little extra material. And luckily, I was able to sell the other piece to a friend of mine who's going to use it for some flat car loads. So, as I mentioned, the turret actual dimensions were about 13 feet in diameter and 22 feet high. So after I had the round piece cut out to the dimensions I needed for the turret, I glued a couple styrene blocker pieces on, so when I had it setting in the rest of the depot, it wouldn't shift around on me and I could get some pretty accurate measurements of what it would look like. Obviously, I wasn't going to glue it onto the depot yet because I would still be taking it on and off, because I would still have to mark out where the windows would need to be measured and cut out to be put in for the turret. Before I cut into the black piping that would be the turret, I took some scotch tape, kind of laid out the windows just to get a rough idea of they all fit and what the spacing would look like, and pretty much it came out to be exactly what I thought, that this was going to work. So I decided it was time to move forward with cutting out the windows for the turret. I found out right away that this material cut very easy with an X-Acto knife. By the time I scored kind of up and down a few times with a blade and then did across the top and bottom of the window, it was pretty easy to kind of dig a knife through there and pop out the plastic piece of the piping for a window to fit in there. I didn't spend much time worrying about cleaning them out perfectly yet, because I would still have to go back and overlay over the top of the piping with the brick material from RS Laser. So for wrapping the turret, I used the RS Laser N-scale brick, and I use this for the same walls for the rest of the depot. As I mentioned in one of the previous parts, it is self-stick, and it mentions that if you kind of wet it, it is bendable. And so I was real leery because of it being self-stick. I didn't want to saturate it too much where it would lose the adhesive on the back. So I just lightly doused it with water and then held it with clothespins. And then every couple hours I'd come back and give it another little, light sprinkle of some water in that. And sure enough, within a day's time, it was totally bent around the round piping for the turret. So I was real happy with the results. So I cut the brick a little high, just so after it dried I could come back and kind of trim off any excess. I was also worried about, as it dried, if there would be any kind of shrinkage of the brickwork, or if it would start to, peel off the tubing. I did not have any of that, so that was all great. I did have to patch in a little bit of brickwork that would be on the back side of the turret. That is, a lot of it basically going to be covered by the roof line, and did the same process. And it was obviously a very small piece that could be clothespin down and was basically taken care of within a matter of a couple hours. So cutting in the lower windows was pretty easy, since I already had the openings in the black piping. It was essentially just kind of putting a little hole through the brickwork and then just cutting around that edge, to get kind of the rough opening. The upper windows, they were going to be a little more challenging. Obviously, they were a little bit smaller, and so I made a jig, traced around, and then pre-drilled some holes, and then it was like a game of connect the dots, where I would take my X-Acto knife blade and go dot to dot to dot and cut them out. And it seemed to work okay. Cutting out the smaller windows at the top of the turret definitely took a long process. I did maybe 1 to 2 windows an evening and then was like, that's it, just because it was so small. But a lot of little plastic scraps by the time I was done, but the end results, by the time you pop the windows in their openings, it looked pretty good. Well, I hope you've enjoyed part 4 of my Grinnell Depot project build. Uh, Part 5, next month, I'll start working on the roof for the depot, so I hope you will tune in then. Take care for now, everyone, and happy railroading to you.